I'd love certain people to go to Mars, like immediately.
Like Katy Perry.
The value of space exploration is not lost on me.
Game begin.
You're listening to Technocracy for Dummies. Does the word technocracy make you feel like a dummy? Me too. That's why we're navigating the state of our union together as America descends into technocracy, which is a system of government overly responsive to the interests of tech elites. I'm your host, Sam Simon, and I've deleted Instagram at least twice, but I still have 4 active accounts, so clearly that didn't work very well. One of which is now available for you to follow at Technocracy #4 Dummies is live on Instagram. I'll be posting. You can keep up with the podcast and anything related to it there, so you should follow it. I'm a great poster. That's what I hear from the people who follow my Finsta. Today I had the privilege of speaking with Baratunde Thurston. He's a host, writer, and speaker across platforms, and I'm talking physical platforms, as in the TED Talk stage. He has a PBS show. He had a New York Times best-selling book. He has 2 podcasts, Life with Machines and How to Citizen, which are basically everything that I want to talk about. And he's funny. So today I'm learning how to become Baratunde Thurston when I grow up. Welcome to the podcast, Baratunde Thurston. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam, for having me. It's good to meet you like this. Good to be on the show with you. Looking forward to understanding how you're defining technocracy, and just happy to talk about anything related to humans and tech and a future worth building.
Yes. Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Technocracy for Dummies.
Let's do it.
Just beginning. What do you think about that title?
Technocracy is a word that is not in the common parlance. So I think most of us would fall into the category of dummies when it comes to that. It's a big invitation to know what you're talking about.
And, I'm the dummy. I get to speak with you and other brilliantly educated people in order to figure out what technocracy is. I feel like I just need to get out of the way. I just really want your job. You have the most incredible lineup in the education worlds and the influencer worlds. You very much use these technological platforms in order to disseminate your knowledge, and that can be seen as 2 different roles of educator and influencer. I was wondering if you'd be interested in talking about what it's like to educate in the tech era using public access tools.
Thank you. I'm not used to being called an educator or an influencer, so this is exciting.
How do you self-define?
I define myself as a storyteller. And I do that across a lot of different modes in media, TV, podcasts, words on screens and pages, as well as my body on stages. And the common story is one of interdependence. And how do we actually live together well with the earth as a major category, and then the stories of our relationship with nature, with each other, fellow human beings, and this practice of democracy, which is going perfectly, and with the machines, with the technologies. And as we are essentially creating new relationships with synthetic beings, it's a real calling for us to make sure we're in good relationship with organic beings of the human and more than human worlds. So I do all of that. And it's a bit of a mouthful still, but there is an educational urging to it. And I certainly would like to influence how we enter our future actively, creating it and not passively, and not just receiving it from a handful of people or entities who have their own designs for and desires for us that are not always in our best interest.
In a storytelling motif, you're at the intersection of man versus nature and man versus technology, except you seem to be removing the versus from it.
Yes, with is a much better connecting semantic tissue. Versus sets up battles, sets up us and them, in and out, right and wrong. And that's an old story. Part of what I'm attempting to do, whether it's a PBS series about the outdoors in the USA, or how to citizen and treating citizen as a verb through that podcast, or this newer Life with Machine show exploring a more life-affirming human future, that with is the only way. Versus is a more colonial story. It's a story of dominance. It's an interpretive story that says we've been given dominion over people or land or other forms of life, and we must defeat. We must conquer. We must plant flags. I'd rather plant seeds, and let's grow things together that can provide shade and food and nourishment for all of us. I think we're increasingly in a versus story in society. I've heard the U.S. situation described as a cold civil war, and I don't think that's extreme language. And I don't think we get out of that with more war language. Because if it's man versus machine, that's two misses. I think with is going to be a better path for us and for these machines. We're teaching all of our beautiful, messy lessons of what it means to be alive.
Yeah, we're teaching them our definitions of what it means to be human and expecting them to be on the same page. It's two different creatures.
And we get surprised when they start acting the fool. It's like, I learned it from watching you. That's what kids say to their parents or the grown-ups in their lives when the adults act surprised.
Do as I say, not as I programmed you to do.
That's a good one. That's the t-shirt.
Something like that.
Think about merch for Technocracy for Dummies.
Maybe like a baby tee. I think that could be really cute. You work with a lot of these platforms in order to share your knowledge and to share your stories. And I wonder how you feel about using the same platforms that are aiding and abetting technocracy for your own community building stories. We experience these as divisive, and it's such a great way of building an echo chamber. And you have very wide audiences because you have a finger in every topic. And that's not the right turn of phrase, but you know.
No, it's great. It evokes images of Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in here. We're warming up and start cooking soon. So I want to return to the verses for a moment. There's usually people in between us and the other entities. There's people between us and the natural world. There's people between us and other people. And there's people between us and the machines. And sometimes the people between are using machines to create a distorted image of other people and of ourselves. Not primarily because they're bad people themselves, but because they're in a system of profit, which creates irresistible financial incentive to do dumb shit. And there is a bit of a versus with those who have a desire to extract from us, to isolate us from one another and even from ourselves, to create dependency to machines they control, as opposed to a more independent or even interdependent way of being with all kinds of influences in life. There is space for a versus in the story. I don't think it's with the tech. The people who designed it and refuse to put reasonable guardrails or involve a more small d democratic process in its governance, I got issues with them.
Yeah.
I use these tools which have been used against us and caused no shortage of harms. There's a lot of bad stuff that has come through, and I do use them. I've figured out little lines of my own. They are imperfect. So I don't use Twitter, Elon's private club.
Yep.
Which is a challenge because there's so much AI conversation that happens there. Really don't want to participate. I have an account. I'd say I probably end up logging in every other week or so because someone sends me a link and I want to see what it says. I don't engage there. I don't give of myself to someone who has so clearly demonstrated ill intention toward me. And people like me. There's a whole bunch of like categorizations that Elon has loudly and proudly proclaimed that he is interested in undermining and underserving. So I don't want to support that. That is a whole thing. I stopped using Facebook out of embarrassment and just a sense of self-love. It's just like a really impossible place to be.
I do love Facebook Marketplace, though.
I have used it to try to hawk wares, but also the thing that was most effective, Sam, I just moved out of a place and tried out Facebook Marketplace. And I'd say 80% of the things work better in the neighborhood group chat.
It's always your community, your immediate community.
I set up a little Notion web page and had photos and pricing and or best
Cute.
offer. Just text me. And people came by. And that was that.
I mean, you just went straight to the source.
Yeah. And a little less intermediated. There was not an algorithm designed by people between me and my neighbors. There were just some phone numbers that I had because I knew my neighbors.
True.
So that was like a good counterexample. I still feel like I am too invested in terms of my time and technologically with some of these platforms that I know are not really having my good interests at heart, or the communities I care about. And I still get so much. Like Instagram is a great example.
Well, and you make
because,
content that gets dispersed very well on Instagram.
Exactly.
How do you
Like,
move
I
away
learn
from
there
that?
and I share there. And I've been trying and partially succeeding in moving folks over on the mailing list platform of Substack, which is a little less intermediated because you at least have an email address, and platforms can change, but mostly people's emails don't. What I'm finding, though, there is no one place anymore. Twitter was the last one place.
Was the last online third space.
Yeah, like a more common space that pretty much everybody was at. I've been around for a while, so there was the AOL, it was dial-up bulletin boards, and then the AOL and Prodigies. But MySpace really created a first common kind of space. And then Elon broke Twitter, and we've been really fractured ever since. I think we should still just call it Twitter.
That's what I've been doing.
Actively disrespecting the owner who so actively disrespects
the
us.
platform formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah. Even that, it evokes Prince and his act of defiance, which I think is just...
We don't need to give that to
too
Elon.
much love.
Yeah.
No, it's just Twitter. I'm going to butcher the Audre Lordish quote here, but there's a kind of quite literal, can you use the master's tools to change? And ultimately, I do think to create better politics and to create better social fabric, our technological tools need to be aligned with those goals. And right now, there are many of us who have goals of inclusion and belonging and interdependent ways of being, but we're on platforms that are versus, that are built on dominance and concentration of power and maximization of conflict in service of profit. We got to reconcile that.
I'm thinking about what you said about using platforms as ways of planting seeds. And are you familiar with the notion of seed bombing?
Why don't you define it for me?
You collect a bunch of seeds for wildflowers that are native to your area. It's very site specific.
Yeah.
And pack them in with a bunch of soil and throw them on someone's colonial gentrifier lawn. And then it grows like a natural wildflower garden. And so I feel like maybe what you're doing on these platforms is seed bombing them a little bit.
That's great. Sometimes I'm just trolling, but let's call it seed bombing.
Yes.
So it's elevated.
Yes. Elevated trolling.
I'm familiar with it. It also reminds me of another concept of like guerrilla gardens. In urban spaces. People take like the curbs, the curb areas, and start planting fruits and vegetables there, or helping their neighbors convert their colonial grass garden into an actual, like, more useful for pollinators and people garden that you can feed folks from. And it's a great metaphor, like the biomimicry in your comparison. It's actually really dope because that's what we all should be doing. And I don't think we have to wait for perfectly aligned technological platforms to do that. Like how we show up in the existing spaces can help. Like we're declaring outlandish and inflammatory positions or inquiring true curiosity. whether we are repeating an emphasis on the problems of our moment, or if we're pairing that problem with approaches to solving them. Are we just ratcheting up people's agitated emotional states and throwing our nervous systems out of whack? Or are we also providing a pathway to a resolution, to resonance, to harmony in that same nervous system? I don't do all the things I just said all the time.
It's impossible.
Acknowledge sometimes I'm just trolling, but it is a common intention. And I haven't really thought about it as seed bombing before, or like guerrilla gardening in the digital lands of serfdom. Lord Zuckerberg.
Yeah,
and
the
the others.
fiefdom of Facebook. Fiefdom?
Yes. Fiefdom of Facebook. There we go. That's good. Yeah, we got
Something like
another
that.
another merch opportunity emerging.
I'm working on expanding my brand globally, and
Yeah,
then
let's break free of the fiefdom of Facebook.
yeah, and I'm thinking I'm gonna outsource all of the labor to Malaysia and just like really treat
No, that's definitely
every
values aligned. Yeah, it's
Exactly.
how we should get free. We can get free by capturing others. I think that's kind of like a perfect.
That's
system.
like exactly how it happens, right? Like
Yeah.
for me to be free, someone else has to be enslaved.
That's called
think.
balance.
Yeah, no, that's just sort of like that's the natural order. I'd like to talk about laughter as a political tool. I think that we've seen comedy used both for and against technocracy. I mean, in terms of against shows like The Daily Show, which mixed news and comedy, or the new South Park, which I think is this incredible experiment in free speech. But in terms of for technocracy, we have this easily weaponized and unbelievably fast medium of memes that works to both sides in terms of numbing our responses and spreading certain ideologies. But yeah, I don't know. I wanted you to talk about your experience with laughter and politics.
Yeah, I'd be glad to talk about comedy and politics, and I've had an evolving perspective on the power of this particular art form in this particular arena. And as a young pup coming up in stand-up, I started in Boston doing stand-up, writing satire, being on stages, always with a very progressive bent myself, and finding that most of the other people were as well. Not surprising. In Boston, liberal college town, etc. I got involved with laughing liberally as a part of the subset of the whole living liberally universe of making politics, progressive politics, socially accessible. I don't think that that's the official tagline, but that is just my interpretation of basically adverbing liberally.
Awesome.
I found another community of various comedians who were wielding this power of humor to promote a worldview of leftiness. And also finding the power of humor to break down some silos between people who disagree. I found it in my own work that I could wade into seriously conflicted areas, especially around race, which has been a huge topic of mine, and soften up the border between two communities with some well-placed and timed jokes that would allow us to see our common humanity or see the absurdity of simple binary perspectives, call attention to a really ugly thing in a more beautiful way, or just process grief and trauma, which people have done with all kinds of art forever. That's part of the point.
But comedy is a very different line to walk than a lot of other art forms, because you can look at a painting and be like, this is technically very well executed, but stylistically it doesn't sit well with me. But a joke can be technically well executed, and if stylistically it doesn't sit well with the audience, it doesn't matter how good your comedic timing is. There's a lot that is very personal when you go to try to make someone laugh, especially for political topics like race.
Comedy requires the audience to complete the art form, especially a performative version of it like stand-up. For someone to do that in a room by themselves, you're not actually doing stand-up. You're just talking alone in a room. But you can create a painting alone in a room, and then maybe you exhibit it, and maybe people buy it or they don't. But someone's got to buy your joke, and the price is a laugh. And if no one's laughing, is it a joke? There's some interactiveness to the very definition of comedy that at least some forms that require an audience to complete it. So that's a part of it. I think the other way I entered, and certainly with my fellow like liberal comics, is we were just hard pressed to find conservative comics. And we started convincing ourselves you can't really be funny from the right because comedy punches up, not down. And you're always speaking truth to power and blah, blah, blah. You can tell with my mocking tone, I do not believe this. It was a fantasy of the moment, which felt good. It felt good to hold that belief. And certainly if you counted the numbers, there weren't a lot of right-wing voices doing comedy things in sitcoms or satirical print publications. Like there wasn't a right-wing Onion. There was a lot of other progressive versions of that same thing. The internet changed all of that and introduced new genres of expression and of art in the memes that you brought up earlier. And in this Gamergate really kicked something off. Like if we are still to have universities in this country, the surviving entities should consider having a Department of Gamergate studies, because that just is an intersection of right-wing politics, internet culture, and comedy that most
and also
incumbents in the world of
developmental
comedy-
psychology.
Yeah. But that most people who were formally in the world of media and comedy didn't take seriously. And that's how you get your shit blown up. Right? You don't see it coming.
The blind spot.
Either you don't see it at all or you dismiss it as, well, that's not comedy, that's some other thing. But it's creating community. It has its own language. People are having a response to it. It's flying under the banner of transgressive for sure, and provocative and rule breaking. And that is comedy. We have done that. We have been transgressive in our comedy to promote our values. And now we're experiencing another side of the coin, being very transgressive in their comedy to promote their values, which many of us find abhorrent, cruel. It doesn't make me laugh. It just comes across as mean. But it is undeniable to me that we are in a moment where comedy has been wielded politically to advance an authoritarian, racist, sexist, fascist agenda. And technology is at the core of the distribution model and the community building to enable that.
Yeah. I'm just sitting with that for a minute. Is there someone that can be blamed for that? Like, is that just fundamentally part of the internet and the experience of being a citizen on it? Wait, hold on. This is moving into a different set of questions I have for you. What does citizenship look like in the globalized digital sphere? Because now we have all of these different pockets of belonging. I mean, before, maybe you feel like you belong to your immediate physical community. And now, as you were talking about with Gamergate, you can play video games with anyone from anywhere in the world, and you can be influenced by them and their views, which in some ways is super powerful. I know there are so many international friendships that grow so much compassion for other people, but it's also a new mode of tribalism in some ways, of like a separate kind of nation building that has nothing to do with borders
or place,
or
right? Just physical
place.
It doesn't. This is fascinating. This is a mess. Upstream from the technology and from the politics is the culture, is a set of values that a community holds or doesn't, and creates a set of norms and acceptable behavior and creates encouraging like incentives to replicate or to shun. We are in a culture in the West of accumulation of wealth. Accumulation of wealth and money, accumulation of wealth and attention. Right? We are in a winner-take-all culture. a culture of conquest, a culture of verses. To go back to where we start, get as much as you can for you. And before the internet came along, it was playing out in a number of ways. Internet, network technologies, automated systems on top of that really ratchet that up and infuse that culture in smaller and smaller pockets. And so I think part of what we're seeing is a type of culture that is damaging being scaled and penetrating deeper and deeper into our lives. Here's an example. Elected officials today behave much more like digital influencers of today than elected officials of 20 years ago.
Right.
The job hasn't changed, but the behavior of the people in the job has, because they are bending to the culture. I do think when you ask, what does it mean to be a citizen, essentially in a decontextualized and unphysical realm, it's a beautiful possibility, and it's so damn risky. When my wife and I made this How to Citizen podcast, we defined citizen as a verb.
Right.
Democracy is something we do, not just vote for people. If it's just acts of semi-annual outsourcing of authority to people who raise their hands to do a particular legislative job, we already lost. There's culture, there's behavior that underpins what a democracy actually is. And it's about showing up and participating in the group. It's about understanding what power is and wielding it well. And it's about investing in relationships with yourself, with others, and even with the natural world around you, with your place. That's not the only absolute right way to define that. I do think it's a more useful way than we have elections every 4 years.
Totally.
And then when you pair that with internet culture, you can, without core principles and pillars and values, just get sucked in to the culture of capitalism. Or you can try to promote a culture of more of that connectivity and experience that online. Not every subreddit ends up as a 4chan, 8chan, doom scrolly death spiral of broken manhood. I don't think it's inevitable that it goes that way, but you do need culture setting and norm setting, and it would help a lot if the technology supports the diffusion of those values. I may be countering myself a little bit. It's a really messy, complicated subject, but I do think it is possible to citizen in a digital realm. I think people are doing it right now and activating to create futures to protect neighbors being snatched up by unnamed, disclosed kidnappers in unmarked vans. Right? Folks are using the internet to build a culture of care as well and mutual aid. We wouldn't be able to coordinate all that without many of these tools.
That's true.
We wouldn't know some of the horrors without many of these tools to know what we're up against. So it's rarely binary for me. It's just about trying to tease out, okay, so what is the thing we want more of? What makes that hard? And how do we intervene in a non-violent way to create more of the good thing, reduce the harm stuff, and name what's happening so we don't just feel like victims.
Something that I've definitely noticed in listening to your podcasts is that you're a very non-binary thinker. Is there a difference between being a citizen and being a community member? Is it about how you enter and participate in your community?
I think the word citizen is so charged.
Yeah.
So let me define my terms as I answer this. There is a technical, legal definition of what a citizen is, and there's requirements that many nations have, where you were born, what your test-taking status is, how long you've lived somewhere, do you speak the language, like various countries do it in a number of different ways. So in that sense, like a community member and a citizen has a hard line between it based on a legal definition. I'm not a lawyer. I'm less interested in that definition, but I do want to acknowledge it because I don't want people to think this guy doesn't think there's such thing as a citizen.
And he has a whole podcast about it.
Exactly. And I think it's more useful to think of citizen as verb. And in this sense, a citizen is an active community member. To citizen is to be active in your community. That's it. So there's not much of a line there. It's just a little nuance on that.
I love that. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Switching podcasts, your podcasts, from How to Citizen to Life with Machines. I'm doing my Baratunde research. I'm watching your TED Talks.
Oh boy.
In your quite famous TED Talk, you discussed malicious power structures. And I feel like we're all at a place where we recognize and are working against the malicious power structures. I was wondering how you see AI codifying or changing those malicious power structures. And this is a non-binary thinking moment. There's a lot of room for both here.
Thank you for that. That TED Talk was called How to Deconstruct Racism, One Headline at a Time. And in it, I was reflecting on the real experience and the headlines describing the experience of white people calling the cops on black people for bullshit reasons. And really upsetting people's lives. And in certain cases, creating a life-threatening situation for the crime of like just being black. And a white person thinking you don't belong here. So I'm going to call in these authorities. AI has an incredible potential to amplify that same structure. I was saying that the story of that reflects a system, and we change the system by changing the story. So we imagine a world where instead of calling the cops on a little black girl selling water, you just bought a bottle of water from her, or maybe ignored her, minded your business, and lived your life and let her live her life.
Right.
We'd all be better off in that kind of world. I think AI and the systems built on it can apply scale to our shortcomings in terms of how we value people, how we see them.
What do you mean by apply scale?
In the case of my TED Talk, I'm talking about one white person approaching a black person with a lens of suspicion and threat, and potentially and presumably less value. I can call the cops on them, even though I don't really know what they're doing, because they just matter less. Like my feelings and fears are so much more important than the consequences of acting on them for that person. So an AI system built on that presumption of threat is horrible.
Well, and you were breaking down the rhetoric in that TED Talk of these headlines, and AI is trained on these. Large language model AI is more or less built to follow that exact rhetoric, no?
Yeah, can be. And Dr. Joy Buolamwini has done tremendous work in this. She had some seminal work showing literally how these automated systems see people and see black people differently, or just don't see them. Or if you were doing searches, which for a long time have been powered by AI, even though today AI means like a generative chatbot system to most people. It's been in our product recommendations and our search engines for a very long time. Tuning us, nudging us, grooming us to see the world a certain way. So that when you search for CEO, looks like a white dude of a certain age. And if you search for a black woman, you might get a gorilla. Right? For a while, that was the case. So that is like a tangible example of a harm that AI and the application of it can push onto the world in a faster, much more scaled way. And we have so many amazing opportunities to not do that. We can change it. And partly it's getting smart and being curious and understanding how these systems are built and how we might build them differently. It is about understanding the value of decentralization and of competition so that we're not beholden to a handful of models or a handful of companies or a handful of literal human beings and their view of the world. So the technology can be divorced from the creators as long as we choose to create the technology differently with different creators. The premise of the Life with Machines media operation, it's a show, it's a YouTube channel, it's a Substack. We're growing slowly to try to offer this way of thinking about living with machines differently. But there's a lot of how to citizen in it. There's a lot of let's find our power. Let's not just download.
Yeah.
And let's expose in just a clarifying way what the people who have designed these systems think. What they think about the world shapes the world. Especially now. I mean, that's always been the case. Like it was popes who've done that in the past. It's been kings and queens and presidents who've done that. It's been business magnates. The phenomenon of a person's worldview affecting the actual world is not new.
Right.
But the ability to codify that, literally, like in code, and deploy that code, not through an interpretive art of printing a Bible and having people read it a certain way and having a pastor reinforce that particular way. That's super indirect. No, literally, the glasses you wear.
Yeah.
Even the nudge to purchase to constantly meet your needs can be codified so that every solution to any challenge in your life, there must be a financial transaction I engage in to resolve this.
That's what self-care
As opposed
is.
to a phone call to a friend. Right?
Yeah.
It's so absurd. Mark Zuckerberg is singularly responsible for the significant destruction of the meaning of the word friend.
Ha. And the meaning of the word like.
I was doing a comedy type performance. It must have been like 2007. I'm like, this kid broke friendship because he created a single lane for human relations, friend or not friend.
Huh. Yeah.
The real world has like many gradations of relationship between people. There's colleagues, there's employee-employer, but now I'm put in an awkward position of my boss complaining that I haven't accepted their friend request.
You're not my
We're
friend.
not friends.
Yeah.
No, I work for you. You pay me to be here. If you didn't pay me, I wouldn't be here. That is not friendship. And after having done the rhetorical destruction of the word friend, and then encouraged the digital collection of all of them, then weaponizing us against our friends, creating schisms and fragments because the engagement was so much higher. So now my actual friendships are frayed because of the toxic information environment that you have so profited from. So I don't even like my real friends anymore because I know too much what they think.
I can see what reels they're liking.
So now our families are broken, our friendships are broken. So the next solution, the next wave, is he's going to sell us AI friends, right? Synthetic friends, injecting fake people into real group chats, and they never sleep, and they're always agreeable.
And they have
tell you how
diverse
great they are.
perspectives.
Oh, so many diverse perspectives, which all lead to more time on a meta-operated platform. So diverse. That's that level of clarity about the field we're actually on is important. Not just to throw shade at Zuckerberg, which he can handle, but for us to make clearer choices and to define, oh, that's why I don't like it. That's why my experience of living feels so off. So what would I have to create instead of that? And the one other worldview I'll just name now, because I could rant forever, but I won't. There are limits to time. That many of the humans who are behind the pushing of AI onto the rest of us, they don't like humans.
Yeah.
Many of them don't like life,
People.
actually.
Yeah.
Right? They think humans are the problem to solve. And they're optimizing for that. How do we reduce
Humanity.
Yeah. How do we, as Sam Altman has proudly professed, how do we create artificial general intelligence, which means a system capable of performing any economically valuable human labor? Don't freak out when people are afraid that AI is going to take their jobs when you just said that's your North Star. I'd rather not order food from a human so I can just have a robot. Like I want to order it from a software robot and have it delivered by a physical robot, and then the food itself is just goo. So Soylent is your whole thing. Cool. We should know that about you.
Yeah.
So now we have some context for why you're so excited for this particular version of AI to take over the world.
Right.
Because you're not happy in the world. And that does not represent all of us. Many of us love people. We actually don't want everything to speed up. We're not trying to maximize the efficiency of time with our loved ones. We actually would love to slow that down. I'd actually like this meal to take a longer time.
In the interest of wrapping up, I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
Which is, how can we, the people of either any country that anyone is listening
People of
to this
Earth.
from, people of the earth and the people of the internet, what are ways that we can begin to change our relationship to big tech? Maybe even ways
That's a great
that
one.
you've started with.
Yeah. One is to understand that our feelings of inadequacy and overwhelm are not a consequence of our individual failures. Like there are so many of us carrying a level of shame.
Yeah.
I should be better at. I don't understand how or why this works. I'm feeling a certain way but can't name it. We are being experimented on. We're in a massive laboratory with very little, I would say no, ethical oversight boards. And the experiments are not designed to create a healthy society. They're designed to create a healthy profit margin. And that's not an evil thing, but it is a vastly incomplete thing for those of us who want to actually live.
Yeah.
As opposed to just produce. So understanding that, just like take a breath, drop your shoulders. You didn't do anything wrong. You're not a failure.
No.
It's the same thing that we could say to a poor person, right? The messaging is all about how you didn't work hard and you didn't apply yourself and you didn't pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And no mention that maybe the lead in the water had an effect on your cognitive capacity.
Yeah.
Maybe the racism in the law had an effect in your ability to get a quality education, especially over generations and generations and generations, and build net worth through wealth. So, 1. 2, we can approach the use of technology in a healthier way by, instead of asking, how do I use this technology? Right? How do I keep up with this technology? What's the latest thing? Ask, what do I want to accomplish? That's the first question. What do I want to accomplish? Do you want to accomplish time figuring out a technological system? If your goal is to understand a technological, spend a lot of time with technology. For me, that's one of my goals, chosen it for my life. I spend a lot of time monkeying around with AI because it's a goal of mine to understand so I can explain it to people more. But not everybody needs to be that person. So is your goal to spend time with your kid? Is your goal to eat healthy food? Is your goal to have good sex? Is your goal to sleep well? Is your goal to earn more money or spend less money? Let's think about the goals as they relate to our lives versus the machines first. And so it's why we call our show Life with Machines and not like machine life. Life comes first. So think about that. I would also take advantage of a drained battery.
As in when you're like, I can't do this anymore, maybe don't go scroll on Instagram as your mode of relaxation.
As in when your battery, as in when the battery and whatever your device is dies.
Oh, literal, not your personal battery.
Take advantage of that.
Okay. Yes. Don't charge your phone.
Right. And let it go. And I think we all will need to start cultivating offline life skills to maintain our minds and our knowledge of self, our knowledge of space and place, our knowledge of other people. I don't want to live in the 1500s. I'd rather not die from dysentery or scurvy or enslavement. But, well, they're trying to bring the slavery thing back.
They've already brought the slavery thing back. That's what DoorDash is, in my opinion.
Oh, you're good. You're good. I like you.
Thanks. I like you too.
But we should remember how to do certain things. And because of the seductive nature of the latest crop of technology, where it actually sounds human, it gasses us up and tells us how great we are, the most annoying, like teacher's pet kind of way.
But it's your
would
pet.
You like me to make a 10-point slide presentation of this? No, I just wanted to know how to make a Negroni. Like, we're not presenting to a corporate board. Everything doesn't have to be like a
just a
productivity
recipe
hack.
Yeah.
There's a great risk of losing some essential knowledge. And like, I don't think we should all be Amish. They've chosen a path. It worked well for them in many ways. I don't want that. I don't want to live quite like that. But I think it is a problem if I cannot get from my home to my friends without GPS. If I only know my health status due to my smartwatch or my smart ring or my smart bracelet, then I'm becoming a dumb human in an area that I should have literally intimate knowledge. I should be able to trust, increase my knowledge of self.
Your gut.
And know when something feels off. My gut. So how do we cultivate that? There's a balancing act to do with technology. I picked this up from the etymology nerd, a great Substack, Adam.
Yes.
I got his last name. But we just published a Life with Machines newsletter on our Substack, giving him some credit and adopting his social media exercise for the world of AI. So what he argued for was, I'm paraphrasing greatly, but it's basically a more mindful experience of technology. That as we are immersed in a technological experience, which is designed to immerse us, to capture all of our attention so we lose time and place and look up 4 hours later. As we are engaged in that, pull back. Feel it happening and stop. Not every single time, but on some regular cadence. Just notice what's happening on the screen. What kind of content is being served? What's the rhythm of it? Oh, every third one is an ad. Interesting. Why is that? How do you feel in your body being on this thing? And just return a sense of awareness to us. And then lastly, get political. I met a man here in Paris where I'm visiting, Gilles Babinet. He is co-president on the Digital Commission for the nation. And I asked him, I'm like, what do you think people should know about AI that they don't? And I want them to know that it's political. I want them to treat it as politics, not just technology.
What does he mean
That
by
is
that?
helpful. Well, a lot of the narrative around AI is it's going to increase human agency. Word agency is real popular, agentic AI. But the salesmen of AI really mean increasing your skills. It's not the same as agency. I've been having this long conversation with my wife, Elizabeth, about it. Agency is your ability to affect your world. So my ability to type a little faster with no power to change the type of job I have available, that's not full agency. And AI and this new phase of tech will require us to grow our agency. To treat AI as political, to me, means to treat it as a form of power that has an effect on every aspect of our lives. Don't just treat it as technology. Then we get into I got to learn tech skills. I got to adopt the technology. I've got to stay ahead of the curve and stay relevant. No. AI is a form of power, which means I have to work with other people to adjust and bend that power so it serves me. The same way we do with a budget for our city or a curricular program for our school system. It's power. And so that means, one, don't approach it alone.
Yeah.
Power is best contended with others. That's how you build power yourself. And you can then meet power with power. Money is a form of power. Sharing ideas is a form of power. Physical force is a form of power. It's not limited to those things. But technology is a form of power. And how we choose to wield it will affect the quality of our lives. What type of world we create. We're in a battle right now. There is a versus going on. There's people with a vision of technology where it is a form of power in service of fascism. And we cannot get caught up in what coding language everybody needs to know. Also because the AIs will be capable of all the coding language. Oopsie, sorry we told everyone to code. But if we're not thinking of it politically, then I think we're missing the true path to agency and to actually shaping the future. And we have got to recognize that in many ways, this tech era isn't different because we're still dealing with power and with people. We have a lot of practice at figuring out how to wield our power on behalf of the people, in this case, of all life, and not just ending up as servants and serfs to Lord Zuckerberg.
Personally, I can't wait to be part of, maybe I'll play the lyre for him.
Oh, the whole instrument. You're good. Wow. L-Y-R-E, not L-I-A-R. Extra points for you, Sam.
Thank you. Thank you very much. But I feel as though I've just learned a lot about podcasting from you, so thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, there's a lot of reflexes built in now. Speaking of podcasts, can I share how people can find me?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm Baratunde, and you can find Life with Machines on newsletter.lifewithmachines.media. That's the most active way in through our newsletter. You don't have to sign up. You can read it for free. And if you do sign up, you don't have to pay. But if you have excess funds that are weighing you down, give some to us so we can help us all co-create a future. And then my own website is baratunde.com. I'm on all the socials as Baratunde. And
a lot of great links on that website.
Feels like something that's resonating with you. If you like life, if you like earth,
you like people,
real food.
Yes.
People, and not all of them. Nobody likes all of them. Trust.
It's a lot to ask.
But if you think the world is generally better with other people in it than without, just generally, it's 51%. Let's find each other. Let's hang in the digital spaces and maybe in some physical spaces. I tour around a lot. So I'll be in New York City soon. I'll be in Santa Fe, Vermont, Menlo Park, Long Beach. I'm doing a lot of universities and different gatherings. So let's build a better world together. But for real this time.
Yes.
Not just as a cover for extracting people's data and selling slices of ourselves back to ourselves.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Baratunde.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Technocracy for Dummies. Technocracy for Dummies is produced at Radio Free Rhinecliff in the Hudson Valley by Matty Rosenberg and Sam Simon. If you're interested in keeping up with Technocracy for Dummies, you can follow us on Substack at Technocracy for Dummies, or you can reach out by email for whatever reason at technocracy4dummies, spelled correctly, at gmail.com.